Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UMRA Reads. We're going to discuss Ketanji Brown Jackson's memoir, The Lovely One. Who would like to start this discussion?
You're muted.
You're muted.
I would just open it by saying I listened to this book. And I don't usually listen to them, but this was a good one to listen to because she did read it.
Oh,
On the other hand, it's a very long book. So I did hear every word, whereas, sometimes you can skim a little bit, but I think it's a 17-hour plus book. But so I don't know if anyone else listened to it.
Yeah, I did. I agree with you. And as we learned in the first part of the book, she was such a good speaker. She won first place in every debate competition she was in and whatnot. And I totally got that feeling as she narrated this. It was just perfectly narrated, and she's warm and interesting. And I thought it was a good one to listen to. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. I think someone like her, and I think anybody like, I'm trying to think of like well-known people who write their books. I think almost always they narrate it, unless there's some major reason not to. Michelle Obama has done hers, Hillary Clinton did hers, Barbara Streisand narrated hers. So I think they can just bring an extra feel to telling their story. Prince Harry, narrated his. So there you go.
I have to be honest, I have not finished the book, but I am reading it. And I think it was last weekend, she was actually interviewed about the book on a show. We were flipping channels, and um, I didn't get to watch a lot of it, but I did see her introduction where she read a piece from the book.
Oh,
It was really, I don't remember who. I just, my husband was flipping through the channels. And I was like, oh my gosh,
ah.
it's the book I'm reading.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to find that.
Yeah. I bet we
I'll,
could find it somehow on YouTube or something.
Yeah,
yeah, I'll try
oh,
to look for it.
I can do a search maybe.
I also have not finished the book yet. I found it slow at the beginning. Um, and I was a little worried that, oh my gosh, this is going to way too wordy. But once I got into where she started on the debate team and stuff, I found it very interesting. And so now I'm hooked. So I will finish it.
I'm with you. I'm really just barely started, but she's an interesting woman so far. Well, a child at this point, but yeah, I want to finish it as well.
Yeah,
She's an
and we know
important
how it
person.
ends. So I figured I'm
Right.
enjoying the discussion.
Yeah,
How it ends.
yeah.
I just finished it today, and I will tell you that I skimmed quite a bit towards the end. I didn't really feel like I needed to have quite as much detail in the judicial process. I was very interested in her life. She is a very interesting person and a good communicator, a really good communicator. She had some really fortunate things happen in her life. I'm happy for her. Her debate teacher. One teacher like that can just change your life.
Mm.
And I'm not saying she wouldn't have been successful without that experience, but I think it just really was right time, right place, right person. And it was just a springboard for her and really capitalized on her natural talents and abilities and the teaching that her parents had done. So
Mm.
her childhood was fascinating. And as I say, some of the later stuff, um, I did want to finish it because I have a lot of other stuff I'm reading. So I kind of skimmed through some of the details on um, but for instance, when she talked about trying to get her uncle's sentence commuted for um, he was serving a life sentence for a nonviolent crime. I mean, everything just, I read every word and it was just like, I can't put this down, and so it kind of went, fast and slow and fast and slow. So anyway, I really enjoyed it.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think, at first I thought she was in a funny predicament with that uncle of hers because she couldn't be the lawyer trying to take care of it and all. And yet she was on that committee about sentencing guidelines. And I think this really spurred her on for that they're only maximums and not minimums or whatever. And it was interesting how as she got more and more experience earlier on in her career with clerking and whatnot, she learned, really what this meant for people. Um, and then she pointed out the 3 strikes and you're out if this is your third offense. She said it was mandatory life imprisonment, and I guess I didn't realize that. And I guess depending on the crime, even a third strike may not merit that, or I guess she was leading sort of the reassessment of that kind of thing. And not just that, but other aspects, knowing that very easily someone's life can just be stopped, from, um, and granted, if they've committed a crime, they're sort of, going down the wrong path. But there are worse paths than others and worse crimes than others. So I learned a lot, really, about the law, from that. And then the other aspect I really liked, well, you mentioned it was interesting seeing how she was raised, her parents, and how they expected a lot of her. And when she ran into discrimination or whatever, her mom would say, don't let it overtake you. Like, don't let that anger, be then your driving force. It's not right, but still keep your goals and where you're going and that sort of thing. And when they really pushed, and it worked for her because that was her personality. And then in comparison, when she has her 2 kids, and then, of course, one of them has some learning challenges. She's trying to raise them like she was raised. And only later, when she got various diagnoses for Talia, did she realize, oh, every child is different. It like expanded her understanding of humanity, I guess, really. That's it.
It struck me too that, well, it gets to the being a mother thing, but her path was success after success, basically. And she did encounter some, like the playground situation where the mother said, you can't play with that girl. And so it wasn't that she didn't have any, she did remember that. And she remembered being the girl in high school that didn't get dates. However, she had
Oh,
a
yeah.
huge group of friends and she was very successful with friendships, with academics, with her debate, and all of that, with her forensics. And she was even in plays and sang. And she wasn't thinking about Harvard, but then I can't remember what stimulated her to apply. And she got in, and then she went to the Harvard Law School and she became on the Harvard Review, and she met this really cool man who, she fell in love with, and everything seemed, very much like, sort of this path of hard work and dedication, but so much success. And I just felt like when she got pregnant and had that child, even before the child was understood to be special needs, that was a really hard thing for her.
Mm.
Just the motherhood thing, she bumped up against something that, and maybe it's kind of those things that she wanted to do it this certain way. And because she was working full time and her husband's in another city, and she was doing all different, jobs that were hard. And, other people were staying past 5 o'clock and she was needing to leave. And it's sort of, it was that whole thing, I thought that was really interesting too, how this person who was used to such success and that hard work brought you success found that to be so challenging. But I love the way she and her husband worked through things and kind of finally came to sort of grasp what was going on with this girl and be able to, find the right situation for her to thrive. As well as her other daughter, who there were some touching parts to that too, when her daughter read her entry essay when she applied to Harvard about having an autistic sister. I think she read that in the book, if I'm not mistaken. That was part of what we heard. And so anyway, I thought all of that was very interesting because I think motherhood is hard. And for high achievers, it's like, wow, I think it's hard for a lot of people. I thought it was hard, but anyway, so.
I used to work for an organization called Parents Helping Parents in California, and it was for families, support for families who had children with special needs. And I mean, the parents were amazing. It was just a wonderful organization to work for. But I absolutely agree. I mean, there is, we all have these expectations or hopes and dreams for our children and how we're going to parent, and then life happens, right? And there's this whole grief process that you go through, and realizing that my child isn't the way that I thought that this would, and I'm going to have to parent in a different way. And it's very difficult. And I was honored to work in an organization that provided support for these parents that, as soon as they found out that something was happening, whether the child was, newborn or older, there was a place where they could go and talk to other parents who had experienced the same thing. It was, yeah, but I felt like I just got to the point where she's doing I think her second clerkship, and Patrick and her are finally living together after being apart. So one of the things that I noticed throughout is that I felt like even as a young child, she was very intentional, right? Like she knew from a very young age that she wanted to go into law, and everything that she kind of did. And I'm sure her parents really were important in guiding her. But, I don't know how many people have that much intentionality as a child, right?
Right.
Do you remember when she'd stack up her books? Her dad would be studying his law books, and she would make a big stack and writing stuff out at the kitchen table. That was so sweet. It was a sweet memory, but she was emulating what he was doing.
Right. And her dream wasn't just to become a lawyer, it was to be on the Supreme Court when she was young. That struck me as interesting that she even had such an understanding of the levels, that you go through. Amazing. And yeah. That was something.
But lots of opportunity, right? She had lots of opportunity. And I don't know if they get to this in the book at all, but she doesn't reflect on this much. But I wonder how much her husband's family's position helped her, if at all, in moving through this process, because they were such a well-known, well-established family in the Boston area. It doesn't come across that way, at least in the book so far, but I'm curious to see if that is something that comes up at some point.
I don't think so. I don't remember it. No.
Okay, interesting. Oh, and the interview that I started to watch was the American Law Institute event, and she was interviewed by a Judge Gergel, and yeah. So, anyways, there's several that she was interviewed interviews she's done, but that was the one that I had started watching.
I was on YouTube.
Um, It was on YouTube. I think I was actually watching it, but yes, on YouTube.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'll just do a search.
Okay.
One thing about her kids that I thought this little story was interesting. Do you remember when her daughter could say the whole alphabet and she was like 2, and then
Yeah.
she could say it backwards?
Mhm.
And she thought, wow, my child is like extra brainy, which she was very brainy, but she said only later did we realize that what we were seeing was really pointing to, um, what we'd later learn about her and,
Yeah.
her being on the spectrum and all of that. But she didn't go into it then, but, she sort of described first as the pride and then acknowledging.
Yeah. And beside her magnificent climb through the legal system to the Supreme Court, I thought it was well written about all the stuff that women, particularly with children, and not just that, not just children, but a child who requires extra input, a husband who's a surgeon, and all the extra time and hours that go with that. And luckily, he made decisions to support her when they would move certain places and vice versa. And then not only was she just a working mom, but because her levels of ambition was so high and her focus was, to work well into the night, every night, reviewing these cases and whatnot, um, you'd wonder, at first, well, gosh, how did she manage it? And how did she raise those kids? And yet it seems like she raised them very well. I mean, the young one at age 11 wrote the letter saying, please nominate my mom to the Supreme Court. She's the best one, for the job and whatnot. It seems like you can do it, I guess. Well, number one, you've got to have some money to support some of the childcare and nannies and that kind of thing. But it also seems like they took turns and the husband took some time off, I think, at one point to pitch in with the kids. And it's difficult, it's exhausting to read the book, and how she'd be there that night when she was working for a private law firm. And she'd feel kind of bad that she had to leave earlier than the others who are staying there all evening, because they're just such high level achievers. But she had to go home, she felt she had to go home for her children. And so, what a dilemma being torn back and forth. So I thought that made it quite an interesting read, honestly.
One point I was wondering, I realized she wrote this book after she's been on the Supreme Court, and I've wondered, where did she get the time to write a long book like this? But then from what we've read about her, she's very, works very hard, very focused, and she never mentioned any hobbies. So I think she continues to.
Yeah.
Well, I just read the part where she says, when she was alone and they like living alone and they were separate, they were married but separate. She talks about how she tried to write the great American novel. She sat down and like outlined it and everything and tried to do it and then realized like it's not going to happen. And yet here she wrote this novel. So
Yeah, I forgot that.
Well, a memoir is different from a novel, but
yeah, but
yeah.
still.
Still, yeah. I'm looking forward to finishing it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder though, when like well-known people who often it's almost expected to get a memoir from them. I thought Barack Obama had said he would just sort of keep notes as things were going along, just about political things that were happening, a few things in his family, etc. Maybe just for whatever reason, but also maybe with an eye to putting it into a book. And I guess I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps, now maybe some of the stuff about how she grew up and all that might have been just kind of resurrected from her memory. But I wonder if, as she was going along and really working through the law system, if perhaps she wasn't doing some sort of prep work, at least a a chronological, thing that you could follow to as the basis for writing the book. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Mhm.
And she moved from so many places. Like finally, they had this bigger sort of dream home in terms of there was room for each child, and I think a big kitchen and lovely woodwork or whatever. And they loved it so much. And then, well, they had to give that up. I mean, they were always looking for like what's the better situation for the whole family, even if one aspect of it was painful. And she really made a lot of moves. I feel like she moved a lot. And then like the au pairs or the different babysitters, and wow, she was juggling a lot and so much driving. She was driving and driving.
Yes. Yep.
Did it remind you guys of when you had little ones and you were driving at the end of the day?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't have an au pair, I can tell you that.
No, I didn't.
It's
Yeah.
called the second shift.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I also was not a lawyer and did not even get an advanced degree. So, but yeah, took me right back.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that I agree whoever said about the book starting out slowly, because it kind of like, oh my God, before she's 18, this book's going to be halfway through, it just kind of went through and then it sped up. But I really did find how fascinating that debate team ended up really being so formative for her in so many things. And I was thinking, think about exposure to that as a child, and that school was known for their debate team. But think about how that is benefiting her now, all these years later, because she learned all those oral skills so early in life and so comfortable. Same with the acting. In that role, I'm sure you have to always feel like you're on stage. Well, she already did all that and was comfortable in that, where, somebody, you're that smart and you can act and you can sing. Come on, what can't she do? But like just how important that those knowing when we expose children to things so soon, and that teacher being just super to all the kids. But that teacher was smart enough to know that she was one of the special ones, and really did move her along. And even the subtle racial things that she endured there. I mean, that was there, that she did endure that. I think again, she just kept going forward with it, and certainly it is amazing that she did everything that she did in such a short period of time, really, and hopefully she's going to be on the Supreme Court a long time because she's young. And so I just thought that was thinking, if every kid had that opportunity, would they use it the same way? And the gifts that kids have, would that have been developed if that wasn't right in front of her or not? So that was my thought. And she kept talking about public school, like public school was kind of like, oh, I'm a kid from public school. There's nothing wrong with public schools, right? If you're in the right, if you're in the right school. But the with her children being in the private schools, and certainly a different socioeconomic situation at that time, and the special needs of her oldest daughter, but still, the public schools can be that, and produce that type of person. And she did. And so I just wanted to give a plug for public schools.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I didn't read the book yet. I'm waiting to sort of hear from all of you if I would like it.
Yes.
And sounds like I would like it. So I'll just make some comments off of what a few of you have talked about. One is the idea of what we expect of our children, and how often it's what we think we are and how we are. And I don't know how many of you have ever read a book by Stella Chess, who was a psychiatrist, and the book is called Your Child is a Person. And it essentially makes the point that some parents could be wonderful parents for one kind of a child, but if they get a child who has a temperament that is different from their own, and they keep pushing the child to have a temperament similar to theirs, and the child doesn't, they might not parent the child as well. And so the whole thing is based on trying to understand what temperament your child has and trying to help them deal with situations given that they have the temperament that they have. And I read that early. Actually, I read it in my psychiatric training period. And I found it something really to think about when I had my own children. Not that I didn't do a lot of the things that you're not supposed to do, but it gives you a different looking at your children, your child as a person. The title is very meaningful. So that's just one comment about raising children. Another thing, I agree with that whole thing about public schools. I was very fortunate to go to wonderful public schools. And if we all think about it, there's probably one teacher that may have made a difference for you. And I had such a teacher in junior high school who turned my mind on to science. And many years later, I tried to contact her, but it was too late. She had already died. I thought of this too many decades afterwards. But as I look back, I just realized what a difference she made in turning my mind on and beginning to love the sciences. And then experiences, I guess we can all maybe think back on experiences that were formative for us. Maybe they weren't as major as for her, but I can think of one for myself, and we can all look back and see that these things happen in our lives. I had, so many decades ago, women just didn't have positions as physicians or PhDs or anything. So although I was turned on to science and I went to the Bronx High School of Science and studied science in college, I just figured I would be a lab technician. And then I just happened to have a job at a hospital in New York, a summer job, and I had to bring people and bring their charts over to where they were going. And I just had my nose in their charts all the time. I was so fascinated by everything. And some secretaries there noticed that and told the head doctor that they should talk to me about going to medical school.
How wonderful.
And if it wasn't for that, I would be a lab technician because it never occurred to me that I never seen a woman doctor. I'd never heard of a woman doctor. And when he said that to me, it was just like, what? And after that, I started thinking about going to medical school.
I love that story.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
My impression, someone asked about, commented about whether she maybe took notes from her childhood or, and thinking like about maybe eventually writing a book. And my impression is from she remembers all of the happy times, and that's what she wrote about, right? A lot of I think she has a very positive mindset. And so I would tend to think, nope, she didn't have this plan. Like she just went and back and thought, I'm going to write this book and think about what were, um, what really formed me. And she writes it in a very positive way. And she kind of skims over the difficult parts when she's young, right? She just focuses on the positive. So I just wanted to share that thought.
Well, keeping a diary was kind of a thing for a while.
Yeah.
So,
think too that I would have expected maybe more about negative experiences with racism and whatnot. And as I'm thinking of the ones that I can just remember offhand that she mentioned, when she was on campus, um, and there was someone who hung a Confederate flag in his window, and for a day or two, the students were, activists and saying, bring that down. And the school was saying, but he's got the right of freedom, and they let him keep it up. And then she decided, if I get distracted by this, I won't accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. So she stopped thinking about it and just moved on with her studies, whereas someone else might have gone farther with that. But this is how she is, and I think how she seems like a good person to be able to negotiate and whatnot, perhaps on a court. She just mentioned that she thought she was watched more closely when shopping than maybe some of her white friends, like she might be a pickpocket or a theft. And then one friend of hers, a white friend, told her, and she said she didn't even realize it, that but the white friend noticed that teachers were harder and more judgmental of the Black students. And it surprised her a little. And then, but she did mention just that she just felt um, kind of alone or isolated when she'd be the only Black student in an honors class or some kind of honor society or something like that. So every now and then that did, keep coming up. But now, granted, her parents, I think, sort of had a lot to do with tempering that or helping her temper that. Her father wrote a curriculum about African American studies, I think, for some school. But yeah, I think I guess we didn't hear enough about that. Maybe when the uncle came up, that he got a very strict sentence. But it turns out, I guess, she didn't so much emphasize that perhaps because he was a Black man, but because of this 3 strikes and you're out. And that was probably very true as long as she's putting it that way. But she kind of talked in generalities about fairness to all people under the law, without giving a lot of examples about it, I thought.
So what somebody was been how parents dealt with her early experiences of being Black. And could somebody talk more about that? What it says, what she says in the book, because that might be a place where one could learn something
Well, I
about
thought
that.
she talked about early on having pride of, her parents went to visit Africa and she stayed with the grandparents for a while and they came back very rejuvenated about that. I think she had a lot of pride in her Black heritage. Or what was your
But didn't
question?
somebody say there were some episodes where her parents helped her through some early experiences? If somebody said something, or
Oh,
did I mishear that?
I might have just given one example of the mom, I think, who at one point said to her, don't, like, when these things happen to you, maybe it was when the boy couldn't play with her anymore. And I think the mom said to her something like, don't just focus on that, move on with your own life or something. It was worded much better than that, but she was just trying to help her not live a life of anger about that. I mean, it's kind of hard when you're being barraged probably every day, but we didn't, I didn't notice that we saw that much of it in the book. I don't
No,
know. Do you think, Diana?
There's a page on page 53, which is about where I am. I'm not far into it.
Oh,
But she's talking about her parents helping her. And she says, their goal, I would come to understand, was to ensure that I was firmly rooted in my Black identity
right.
and would be able to value my own experiences without having my sense of self undermined by the wider culture's extolling of personal characteristics and social circumstances that bore little relationship to my own. So,
Yeah, that's a whole lot better than I said it. She
well,
said
it's
it
what she
too.
said.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Well, being rooted in confidence
yeah,
in her Black heritage.
yeah.
So that would also help her then not just, be crushed by everything,
Right.
and just say, hey, I am a good person with a great culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
When
other,
you talk,
the other thing about that she never really mentioned, I mean, her children were biracial, and she talked a little bit about, you know, having children and having that be it's something they would have to deal with, but she never really mentioned that her kids experienced any kind of, unless I missed that. I mean, but they were probably in very diverse schools in the Washington area, and so that might have been, there wasn't an issue, but many times that is for children,
Yes.
from just not fitting in. Where do you fit in? But it sounds like that they really worked with the children and identifying with both races. And his family was like a come on, could they be any better? I mean, like, oh, they were fantastic, considering, their backgrounds and their wealth and how welcoming they were, and the friends who didn't accept her were like, see ya. I mean, they were wonderful people for sure that helped facilitate, I'm sure, a lot of positive experiences for those kids too.
And taking them to Africa
Yeah, yeah.
and arranging for her to be in the area where her family had come from.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They were very facilitative. That was amazing. Yep.
Thinking ahead that a child would need that kind of a background experience to have the strength to deal with whatever they might. I remember one couple that I knew. One was Black and one was white. They were both Jewish, and they had sent their child to a Jewish day school. And then they made a decision that it was more important for them, for the child, to become secure in their Black identity. And they went to Africa for 2 years. So the child would grow up among Black people and learn to feel secure in his Black identity. So it's interesting that some parents have a sense that they have to strengthen their child. And I think in those ways, you think of who gets successful when the culture maybe is not geared to success for that racial group. And it sounds like she had the good fortune, one, to be born into a family with educated parents, with professional parents and a father who was a lawyer himself and could be a model. At the same time, parents who were looking for ways to strengthen her for what she might need, teachers who supported her. I mean, it's sort of an exceptional background that leads to the opportunities to become an exceptional person.
Right.
But it didn't just start with her parents. It started with both sets of grandparents. Both
Ah,
sets of grandparents had a tremendous influence on her life. And she spent a good part of the book talking about that.
Right. Yeah.
Did. She came back to it and back to it. Yeah.
Mhm. She did.
that's
They
interesting.
also gave her that wonderful name. And her brother got a name, also an African name.
Mm.
Mhm.
I didn't see that it had been explained, its meaning. Ketaj, I don't know what it means. Did you see anything?
Probably one.
It means lovely one.
No, her name does.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
The
know
brothers.
Oh, the brother, yeah, they did explain it. I can't remember.
Okay,
I can't
I'm
remember
only
either.
170 pages into it. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either, or I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Well,
I-
there is an awful lot in the book.
yes.
It's a big book. Yeah. Yeah.
How did she weave in her later life? How did she weave the stories about and the episodes with her children and her family into her professional activities? I'm curious because I'm working on my own memoir, and that's always a tough thing when you have many stories to tell and many parts of your life. So, how did she do that?
very clearly.
Yeah, yeah.
She
It
separated
was,
them, or how did she do it?
No. Well, when she had not expected to get pregnant, she thought she would take 3 months to get pregnant. And apparently she got pregnant right away, and she was just moving into a new law firm. And then she actually got 4 months of maternity leave. I don't know how she arranged that. And the law firm was a big, big one. And then her daughter had special needs from the beginning. She was allergic to um, dairy products and to eggs. And no matter what the formula was, her daughter had rashes and this and that and the other thing. Anyway, and she goes into it, and then she moves in and out of the law firms based on her husband's um, his needs and their children's needs. But she was just devastated with the fact that she wasn't there the first time her daughter did certain things, and so she moved her jobs so that she was able to do that. And I haven't gotten any farther than that.
yeah.
How does
I'm
she
That's
sorry.
weave
accurate.
in
Yeah, yeah.
what's happening in her
But
professional life and what's happening with her family
yep,
at
she
the
did.
same time?
Yeah, at the
Does
same
she just
time.
weave them in? How
Yeah.
does she
They
separate
Yep.
the
kind of went
chapters?
chronologically.
Yeah.
Like I started this, I'm really, solidifying it. I started this new job, and then I found out I was pregnant, and then we had to move because of his residency. And then when the baby was born, she had these issues. I think she was just, it felt to me like it was chronological, and you were just sort of living her life with her as these various things arose and as she dealt with them. I don't know. She didn't have like separate chapter. Maybe there was one or two, but it wasn't like, okay, now a chapter about the family, now a chapter about law. No, it
No,
wasn't
it was
that.
all together.
It was just all together. Yeah, yeah. Here's my life. Yeah.
Right.
And she kind of talked about, as I recall, this wonderful neighborhood where the parents of the children were close and they were friends and they would have parties and even maybe go on trips together with the children. And do you remember that? There was just this cohesive, wonderful group through either the
Yeah.
school or the neighborhood. And it just was such a good thing for the children and the parents.
I haven't got there yet.
Me neither.
And how did she weave that into the section about they moved into a new neighborhood?
In Circle Square, maybe?
And then the law firm that she's working at.
It's
It was just
all
all
Just have to read it.
integrated,
Just read
different
it.
sections.
It just
yeah.
flows.
And she did
It's
it well. It
Yeah,
just
she did.
worked.
I
She
saw
does
it.
it very well. Yep.
Yeah. But it is very chronological.
Yeah.
Everything is
Yeah.
very chronological. I mean, she starts at the beginning and she
Yeah.
goes through,
Right.
But they're not, she just weaves it all in together, which is very difficult because when you
yes.
think about it, she has so many strands that she has to
Mhm.
weave together to make a book that reads well. So that's
She's
another thing.
she's a beautiful writer.
Yep.
It's enjoyable to listen to. I'm listening to it.
Yes,
Oh,
we
And
said that
it's
earlier. Yeah.
yeah, it's very easy to listen to it. Yeah.
whatever she
Great.
took an interest in, she engaged others to be part of a group, and they all shared and produced together and discussed and developed great friendships. And she did this from one to another setting all through the 170 pages I've read. And it's just beautiful because it provided such meaning, richness, and intensity for her and for those people. In fact, from her high school, you know, 5 of them went on to
Harvard.
Harvard, and then they went to law school, Harvard Law School, which was really something. I mean, they'd come from Florida, and all but one were black.
Mhm.
It's just remarkable. But they had engaged in such collaborative experiences together for so many years. It was just beautiful.
It's
Right.
social support, which is so critical.
Right.
And
But she
I
built
guess
it.
through this book, you can just see the things that are necessary to help a person to be able to, whatever their gifts are, it's more than their own gifts. There has to be the environment that fosters it.
her husband to be, her husband, excuse me, when he was first a friend of hers,
Right.
and they were friends for a long time. And
Yes.
in fact,
She didn't realize there was a relationship that was other than just friends.
That's right. And it
Right.
sort of came out, and when it came out, it almost sort of jarred her, but I don't know, he was able to help turn that around. But it really went on for a long time that they were the best of friends, and her friends wondered about, what are you doing with this white guy? And they liked him a lot, but on the other hand, weren't sure. Um,
And she had another friend who'd been on the debate team with her
Mhm.
and that moved on to Harvard with her. And he was in her classes and they worked together there. It was, she developed incredible friendships.
Yes.
And I don't know, I haven't finished the book, but I don't know whether those people entered her life to move her on as as an adult in the law practices and that kind of thing. I don't know. But
And when she went to different cities and had to move all the time, and one of you said that she looked to establish a group for social support for herself and for others. How did she initiate that, or how did she know what groups of people to try and establish such a group?
One of the things that they talked about in doing that, and I can remember doing that myself as a working mother, they had a after school program, but you had to pick up by a certain time. And if you didn't pick up at that time, you were kind of, besides being charged a lot of money, it also was just socially not acceptable. So she formed a group of people that if you're going to be late, you would text, they had a text string that they would say, pick my kid up too. And, we'll pick you up at the pizzeria, at 20 minutes. I'm going to be 20 minutes late. So from that, it became a big parental, because they were all working parents. It became parental support group, and they became friends and everything. And so that was, that's something kind of common that happens when you have a child in daycare, that you have that emergency person, preferably that they're already there and can just grab your kid for you. But before that, they didn't have a policy that other parents could take your kid. And so they established that, yep, you can make the call and say, I'm late, pick up my kid. So that was one social network that they and that evolved into friendships and socialization.
it's impressive how she moved through Harvard, how she moved through Harvard Law, how she moved to the judgeship, how she moved to this, and the movement of her career.
Mm-hmm.
And it just she really writes it beautifully. But to me, a lot of it was based on what she learned in debate and how much that impacted her life. Now I was never on a debate team. I know they had it at high school, but I was impressed with how much I think she learned from debate.
And didn't the debate teacher like not allow them to do practice debates with each other? Because then there might be a winner and a loser. And she didn't want within the group, within the team, to feel like someone is a little better than someone else. We're working as a team here. And so I don't know who they practice with. I guess it was other schools or other whoever, but I thought that was an interesting way of keeping the purity of the team. We're all working at the same goal. And yeah, go ahead. I'm
I
done.
thought it was she wouldn't allow them to be put against each other, to face off against each other at competitions.
Oh, at competitions. Oh,
They would practice together, but at competitions, she would never allow one to be put against the other
oh,
of
okay.
their
I
own
thought it was the
team.
practice. Okay.
But it had the same outcome that you described, Susan, that it was because she wanted them to be in it together and be supportive of one another.
Yeah, got it.
Right.
It just goes to show how education is critical. And as somebody said, you can get a great education in public schools if there's support for it, and how little, unfortunately, support there are for things. I remember one time reading that a mayor of New York, maybe it was Giuliani or somebody, they had an issue between crime and education, and they couldn't afford both, and they had to change. They had to select. Of course, they didn't select education, but that budgetary things can affect. I mean, you can't have equal opportunity if you don't have equal education.
Amen.
And she's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the important role that her parents, I mean,
And her parents.
It really comes down to her parents and her family and the support that she got, because, you know, if she hadn't had their guidance and support through high school, I don't know if she could have participated in the debate team the way that she did. But she was naturally, I mean, intelligent and outgoing, and a great speaker, and loving to act, and just a natural leader. I mean, she just, like, I think Susan had talked about when she was when they put the sign up on campus, the Confederate flag, and how she decided she wasn't going to let that distract her from being successful, because all of the students in the Black Student Association were all focusing on dealing, you know, with that issue. And she not only told herself, like, I'm not going to get caught up in this and let it take me away from my studies. She stood up to the group and said that to them, like, we, you know, that's a born leader, right? Where she says to them, we can't let this distract us from being successful, because the best thing that we can do is be successful and show how successful we are and what we can achieve. So she really was, and I think it did come out of those her high school experience, just this born leader.
Yeah. She was like the right kid, born into the right family, as far as she was able to accept all the support that was coming her way, and she made the most of it. And of course, it's always better to have support, but you know, some kids are different. Some kids make more of what they're given than others. And she was just, you know, it was like all the stars aligned, and there you go. Yeah.
It did feel that way. It did feel that way for me in reading it so far, right? That it's kind of like, yes, she went through a lot. And part of it's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't know if that's just because she has such a positive mindset that she doesn't focus on the challenges that she had growing up as a Black student in a predominantly white school. But she, you know, she really kept that positive point of view and did not let herself get drawn into, I'm different, I'm not accepted, I'm not, you know, this type of thing. So that just, I think it is a competent, but it did feel like, wow, she had all these things kind of available to her that just lined up, that how could she not have been successful? You know, I mean, there's lots of ways, but she worked hard. I'm not taking that away from her. And she has very strong natural talents, right? But she also had a lot of opportunities that I think maybe other people don't have in the family support. And where she went to school.
I mean, she kind of used her connections in really good ways. Like, I mean, it seemed like she had that one job. I don't know if she was like a clerk, and then, but it was before that even, like maybe when she was on one of the courts. I can't remember, but I think, was it Judge Breyer that figured into several things? But there was another judge before that too that was so meaningful, taught her a lot, and it was just long enough ago that I listened to this book that I should have jotted down a little bit about that, but I felt like she knew how to kind of appropriately, use not use people, but like connect people that, she knew to her goals. And I thought it was really great the way she did that. And I even sort of think that all of that led to the Supreme Court, really. It certainly did.
Yeah.
I think what?
She clerked for Justice Breyer,
Yeah.
whose seat she later assumed on the Supreme Court. I'm reading about her in Wikipedia. I refer you all to that. It's interesting stuff.
Are there any? I think it would be very interesting to read about the other chief justices and how they came up and what.
Because the supreme ones or the chief ones or just any of them?
Just any of them. Yeah.
Any of them. Because I'm glad you said that. I was just thinking in my mind, where else would one think?
Yes. Yeah.
About Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And her book and her experiences. I can't remember how many of us read that or if it was even part of our group. I don't think so. But anyway, she was a different generation and she had different experiences. And that's the other thing. Those of us who went to medical school, Susan, I don't know how many women there were in your medical school, but we were 8% women when I was going to medical school. And that was the era that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was also in law school. Well, she's a few years older than me, but and she talks about having to hide her pregnancy and not getting jobs.
Right.
And so there's also the time that one grows up in. There are so many factors as we're talking about this that are so important for what makes for a successful life and career. And so that's one justice that I recall who didn't have such a smooth trip.
Right.
And then her husband was extremely ill, and she would go to his classes for him and then share all that with him. And then she'd be going to her own. And it was very, and the daughter and everything. Yeah.
Yep.
There was a great documentary on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Notorious RBG. And years ago, I saw it at the Michigan Theater. It might have been 6 or 7 years ago. She was still alive at the time. Oh, it's marvelous. With any luck, hopefully it's still around on Netflix or in the library or whatever. Because it's wonderful. You see lots and lots of, it's a documentary, so it's a bunch of film clips and all. And you can really learn and you can really get the sense of her. There was a movie made about her where someone else starred in her role, but it's always refreshing and marvelous to see her in action herself.
I think at the end,
I missed something.
It at the end, didn't it? Like this actress was going into the Supreme Court or something for whatever case it was that she really won, and she won it, and as she walked out, the actress just changed into Ruth. Do you remember that at the end of it? It was very powerful.
Oh, interesting.
Are we talking about the same one where someone played her?
Yeah, well, there's two movies. One's a documentary just all about her, like they make documentaries, a series of things about her life. So every picture was her. Then there was this other one called
RGB.
No, that one was the Notorious RBG. The other one was a matter of gender or a matter of sex or something that.
Yes.
Because prevailed so much about people. Actually, her first case was in favor of a man who was
She
being
turned it.
discriminated because of his sex, being man.
Right.
So that one was I don't want to say fictionalized, but that was the actors and actresses
Yeah.
playing them. So, but it had a different title. So that I referred to two different things.
Right. Yeah.
But if that's how they did it in that particular one, at the very end, almost always, if there's a film made about someone who is real, during the credits at the end, they'll often show the real person, doing the thing that the movie was about. So they probably did that too. But I love the other one even more. Yeah.
I did a quick look on Wikipedia about her, and there is a clip of her voice delivering the decision for Lac du Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians, which you can find. I'm not going to put it on there now, but it's available. I would like to hear it in a minute, but I refer it to you to it.
The name of the movie was The Basis of Sex.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one, the real documentary, was RBG.
Yeah.
But the Hollywood style one was The Basis of Sex.
Yeah. Wasn't on the video.
When I was in Washington, D.C., we went over to the Supreme Court building, and there was a whole display of her dissent collars.
Oh,
just awesome to see. And back to Ketanji, I feel that she has emerged as a leader, even though she's one of the newest people on the court. And I guess there's been several since now, but she really courageously writes dissents on some of these things. And she's out there being the conscience of the court when it comes to things like the shadow docket and different things that are occurring. And I really admire her for this. I think she could be, closed mouth or whatever, but, she's doing it in very, it's very
outspoken.
Yes, that's right. And so I really appreciate her and her role in history. She'll be there a long time. Good.
Yeah. And in that way, I think she's very different than Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because I remember reading that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a much more tactical approach, whereas this one seems to be very outspoken and not worry about that. For example, apparently she thought that, what was it? The abortion issue went too fast, and that her view was it would have been easier and would have stuck better. It's kind of like the thing about the frog in the boiling water, that if you throw the frog in the boiling water, it'll jump out or whatever. But if you put it in and slowly make a little accretions in the temperature, and I think that was the view she took. She thought that getting the abortion bill passed immediately, or not immediately, but as it was a tactical mistake. And her view was that it would have been better to kind of make small little changes that led up to it. And it would be like the frog that is in the cold water to start with. Whereas one has the sense that Ketanji would not do that, that she would go for broke more, that she's outspoken, and it's no use going slowly because people are so prejudiced against wanting to have that about abortion. But she would just come right out and say, this is wrong and we need to fix it or something.
I think it's a generational. I think it has a lot to do with when they were, the environments that they were working in, or right. I watched the documentary on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I was just remembering, I haven't read this to them yet, but I was so impressed that I went out and bought I don't know if you can see it, it's the My Little Golden Book. About Ruth Ginsburg. But the thing
you have to take off your blur.
Yeah, I don't know. It won't. there.
Oh,
We started getting
I'm trying to get it. But
yeah.
anyways, it's a little golden book, right? And I bought it for my grandchildren so I could read it to them. But the difference was is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg could not get hired as an attorney. She went to
Yeah.
law school, graduated, and then could not. And then
And she got a job as a secretary.
and then she became a professor. She had to go the route of becoming a
Yeah.
professor first. So I thought that was, I mean, the environment in which she was trying to make these changes was completely different than the environment
Right.
that Ketanji is in.
Yeah.
Right. So you're saying the personalities may not have been that different. It was just adapting to the circumstances that you have
Yes.
to take that into account.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. But I'm looking forward to reading this book to my grandchildren,
There you go.
especially my granddaughters.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I thought it was interesting that her brother didn't seem to have the same drive and impassioned approach to his life. He went to law school, but he went to Howard, and so is that the first child syndrome, or
Maybe he gave up knowing he couldn't compete with her.
well, it's interesting.
Was he a daredevil too? Like he was a policeman and he went into a lot of very difficult
He was
situations.
a narcotics officer.
Harm's way.
Well, that's interesting because of all the studies on the personalities of the first and second and third child. So I guess we're just identifying so many different threads and factors that go into somebody becoming successful, super successful.
Monica, did you lay a path for younger siblings that you went on to med school or anything?
No, my younger sister, and I think the same thing happened with my own children, that my second child had to follow a first child who all the teachers remembered. They said, oh, you're her sister and this and that. And I think all those things. Then I always thought, why is this true that first children, well, they are alone with the parents. And so they're like, they're still a child, but they're more adulticized than the other children. When you think about it, there's just so many factors that go into that. But I think it's true that first children and versus second children are often different. It's a generalization, and obviously there's exceptions. But I think it may matter.
Definitely.
Well, she's someone we're going to hear more about.
I hope
Pardon?
so.
Yeah.
What?
We'll be glad we've read the book
Yes.
because we're going to
gosh,
hear
yes.
a lot more about her.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So next month, on June 24th, we will meet again, and the book we will read and discuss is Theo of Golden. Lots of buzz in the community about this book.
A field of golden.
Theo of
Theo
Okay.
of Golden.
Okay.
The author is Alan Levi, Levi.
What sort of a book is it?
It's a great book.
Yeah.
Fiction.
And the genre it's fiction?
Fiction.
It's fiction.
It's a nice book. It's kind book. It's
I'm
interesting.
about halfway through it. It's very popular, though. There are long waiting lists at the library, books on tape, all that business.
Correct.
I'm on the library list and I'm number 30, and I just checked Spotify today if you have Spotify, and it's included if you have premium. So I started listening to it on the way home today.
Oh,
But if you can't get it and you want to listen to it, I thought, I'll just do that.
Yeah. I found someone who lent it to me.
There were 51 on the library in Slane.
Oh.
And
Oh,
then,
that's not so
and,
bad. Yeah, I thought there were
well, she said though there's 3 copies,
Oh,
and then the Libby, it wasn't available for a while. I just went into Borders and picked it up.
yeah.
right.
I bought it on Kindle today.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I try not to.
it's getting a lot of buzz.
I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of like mixed reviews from people that have read it. Some people that really didn't like it and some people that loved it. So I'm very excited to read it. I'm really looking forward to it.
And who is Theo?
He's the
You
main.
can find
Theo
out.
is the
He's an
main
84
character.
Just the main character, that's all.
And he's an 84-year-old man from Portugal who goes to Golden, and then things start to happen.
Golden,
Okay.
Georgia.
Well, we have
Golden
a
where?
hero who is in the 80s. That's
Yeah.
That's
Timely
pretty,
for us.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know how different books come up on your Libby, just because, you know, and you might as well read the one that's available. So I've started the one about the Edmund Fitzgerald. My gosh, I can't believe how interesting it is. It's really
I've read it. I've read it too, Stephanie, and I thought it was just
I've read it.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really, he's such a good author, and
it's just
he's
a
so
page
well
turner.
researched. Yeah.
And you know, I didn't grow up in Michigan, so kind of to hear this history of Detroit and all of that. I mean, I think we've got a really interesting book list this year, and
I agree.
so anyway,
Gordon Lightfoot is my music genre, so
When you listen to that song, I mean, it was so popular when it came out. It's kind of humdrum, you know. Da, 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 da. And that's all it does for like 8 minutes. But you know, hey, it told the story.
it certainly did.
and you know, the author is from Ann Arbor.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
didn't know either, but
I didn't
now
know
I
that.
do.
He's a U of M guy.
Yeah, I'm just so taken with it. So
Yeah.
but I'll get to Theo too, but it's just, you know, my Libby isn't giving me that one.
Right.
what's the name of the author?
John U. Bacon.
Bacon.
John Bacon.
John U. Bacon.
Oh, the Edmund Fitzgerald book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't
They
hear
got it
a
in
lot
for
about.
me, but I had just gotten Culpability, Leo of Golden, the Audible for this one, and then I got tuberculosis.
Well, they all came through at once. So
I just gave
Wow.
it back to him and said, I can't read it right now.
yeah.
Oh my. How are you feeling?
What?
How are you feeling?
How am I feeling?
Right.
Good.
Good. All right.
Good. Yeah.
I
Reading.
trust you didn't mean tuberculosis, the book.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any, as we leave, do we have any guys
Oh,
in our
Richard
participant group, or they're just quiet?
Well,
today?
I told everyone. Al Hermsen contacted me, and he said he's in the. I think he's doing some consulting, so he was busy today. He said he couldn't make it, and I don't know about Richard.
I'm just unusual that we have all women today.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
That's funny.
Every book group I'm in is only women.
The men in this group are interesting because I feel like they like appreciated the book, The Rose Code, the ones that were at that meeting. Like,
Yeah.
They
and
did.
you know, and you might think like some people might think like, well, women would enjoy that more. They're, you know, they were more in the heroines or whatever. But it'll be interesting to see what people think about the one. The most fun we ever had. It's just like, I think it's a wonderful book. I'm sticking my neck out here by saying it. You know, I nominated it, and I was excited when it got pulled for that little tie that we had as one of the books. But it's you know,
When I read what it was about, I thought, now why would this be humorous?
I don't know. I think it's poignant and everything. I don't know. I'm trying to think of funny. I don't think of funny. I don't think it's funny.
Right.
Just to put in a plug for the guys, I remember when you were all reading my novel,
Mhm.
and Richard said, I never would have picked up this book
Hmm.
by myself, but but I really enjoyed it.
That's great.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it is a very female-centered novel, but we have very broad-minded men in the group.
Well, Richard and Al for sure, you know, and
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think I told you that I'm going to turn off the recording just one
Yeah.
moment.